Imagine the scene, friends. The legend, the Prince of Darkness himself, Ozzy Osbourne, laid to rest on the very grounds of his Buckinghamshire mansion, fulfilling a wish he'd carried for decades. It was July 30th, just over a week since his shocking passing, when the final chapter of his wild, unstoppable life was written in the quiet embrace of his 250-acre estate. The funeral, while preceded by a glorious, spine-tingling public procession through the streets of Birmingham, even stopping at the iconic Black Sabbath Bridge, ended in complete privacy. No cameras beyond the gates. No fans crowding the burial site. Just family and a tight circle of close companions, there to see Ozzy lowered into the earth near a still, somber lake at the heart of his sprawling home. Beneath a floral banner roaring, OZZY F King Osbourne, and another that once rested on the hearse itself, the Prince of Darkness was laid to rest in soil as grand and unrestrained as he was in life. There was no headstone yet, but as Ozzy himself once joked, it would read, Ozzy Osbourne, born 1948. Died whenever. He bit the head off a bat. While the grave was off limits even to many of his musical brethren, some heavy metal giants still came to stand guard, pay homage, and say their goodbyes on the mansion grounds, though they could not witness the actual burial at the lake. Let's give them each their due tribute, right here, right now. Marilyn Manson, 55, single. Marilyn Manson, whose own controversial stagecraft was a spiritual cousin to Ozzy's raw shock factor, arrived with eyes hidden behind dark glasses, carrying an air of pained respect. Though barred from seeing the private grave, Manson lingered near the gates, his hands folded, silent, letting the memory of a mentor wash over him. They had shared a bond built on embracing the unacceptable, the unfiltered. Manson later said, Ozzy let me believe you could be a monster and still be a legend. That legacy was why he came, and why he left in tears. Zakk Wylde, 57, married to Barbara Ann Wylde. Zakk Wylde, a true brother-in-arms to Ozzy for decades, wielded his guitar like a sword in tribute even from a distance. The private grave denied him. Zakk instead stepped aside and played a quiet, soul-wrenching instrumental on the mansion's lawn, a lament to the man who had changed his life forever. Without Ozzy, Zakk once said, I'd still be woodshedding in a basement. The chords echoed into the garden, a spiritual send-off, even if he could not stand directly beside the lake where Ozzy sleeps. Corey Taylor, 51, married to Alicia Dove. Corey Taylor, the Slipknot frontman, showed up with respect in every inch of his presence. Known for screaming rage into stadiums, Corey stood almost serene that day, humbled by the gravity of the moment. He, too, was unable to see Ozzy placed in the ground, but he joined the family for a moment of silence under the oak trees ringing the lake. Corey called Ozzy, the godfather of what we all do, a line that felt truer than ever as he bowed his head and wept. Robert Trujillo, 60, married to Chloe Trujillo. Robert Trujillo of Metallica, fierce on stage but gentle in spirit, arrived with a quiet dignity. Robert had played with Ozzy during a crucial part of his solo touring years, and those memories flooded him as he looked across the estate. Though the burial itself was off limits, Robert helped Sharon Osbourne carry one of the flower arrangements down to the mansion's fountain. It was a symbolic final act of service to a man who had treated him like family. Robert's parting words were simple. He was my brother. Rob Zombie, 60, married to Sherry Moon Zombie. Rob Zombie, the high priest of horror metal, turned up in his signature black coat, matching Ozzy's legacy of theatrical darkness. Rob and Ozzy had crossed stages and decades together, each one a ringmaster of controlled chaos. Though he couldn't stand at the lakeside burial, Rob left a personal memento, a single black rose, near the path leading to the private grave, a mark of solidarity among horror show rebels. Later, he told fans, Ozzy taught us you can terrify the world and still have the world love you. That day, even the closest friends, the giants who had played, sung, and lived alongside Ozzy, had to respect his family's wish for privacy. There was no grand stage, no mass chorus of guitars over the grave. Just the quiet of the lake, the subtle ripple of water, and the knowledge that this unstoppable force was, at last, still. His wife Sharon held strong in the face of this enormous loss. Her eyes told stories words could not capture. She greeted these towering musicians with gratitude, but guided them gently away when the time came to lower Ozzy into the earth. A crabapple tree would soon grow over his grave, honoring Ozzy's wish to give future generations a taste of his own crazy wine. And the kids, in true Osbourne fashion, might one day raise a bottle to the legend beneath the branches. As for the fans, millions of them watched on news channels, read social media tributes, and sent messages of grief from around the world. But this final act, placing Ozzy in his chosen garden, among the fountains and oaks, beyond the curious eyes of the public, belonged to his family alone. And in a way it was perfect. The public procession had been enormous, rolling through Birmingham with a hearse crowned in flowers, stopping at Black Sabbath Bridge, where Ozzy's journey had begun decades ago. The Black Sabbath boys once rose from those same streets, rewriting musical history with riffs that bled horror and rebellion. Fitting, then, that their leader would come home to those streets before one last, private goodbye. To all of you watching right now, this is the real, raw story. No conspiracy, no myth, just a final farewell written exactly the way Ozzy once dreamed. If you feel a chill hearing this, it's because we are witnessing the end of an era that will never be repeated. So in his honor, do what he would have loved you to do. Turn up the volume. Blast, crazy train. Scream into the sky. Celebrate every flaw and every fire that burns inside you. Because Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, taught us all one eternal lesson. Never hide what makes you different. If you want to keep the memory of Ozzy alive, friends, drop a comment with your favorite Ozzy moment. Did you ever see him live? Do you remember your first Black Sabbath record? Let's keep that spirit burning here on this channel. Smash that like button, subscribe for more legends and their final stories, and join the family of heavy metal hearts around the world. From Marilyn Manson to Zakk Wylde, Corey Taylor to Robert Trujillo, and Rob Zombie, these warriors came to pay tribute, even if they could not see the grave. That is the power of respect. That is the power of Ozzy. And now there, by the waters of a quiet lake, the Prince of Darkness rests. No longer screaming, no longer performing, but still eternal. Rest in peace, Ozzy. And thank you for showing us how to live unafraid.